welcome back to my channel. How's it going? Hope you guys are enjoying your week. Right now, I'm just so obsessed with books, and I think part of it has been that we're stuck inside in quarantine. Like, I can't really travel right now because of all the travel restrictions. The way I used to handle like the situation I'm in, like feeling a little bit trapped, like I can't go anywhere as a kid, was to read books about travel and read books about stories that were different than my own. And I found that was just like a way for me to kind of, it's like an escapism in a way, but I'm kind of feeling the same thing now. And I found that books are really comforting during this time of uncertainty. So while daydreaming about all the things I want to do once quarantine is over, I've also been just like binge reading books. I've been reading like a book a day or a book every 2 days. And so I've read, let me check my Goodreads. So I've read 22 books so far this year, and almost all of them have been during the quarantine. So I want to share with you guys my 4 favorites so far this year. So these ones range across genres. I would love to do like my favorite environmental books this year, but honestly, I don't own that many like environmental books that I haven't already talked about on this channel, nor have I been reading like a ton of environmental and nature books lately. There is some in this list that definitely fall in that genre, but I've been trying to expand my horizons beyond. So this is just like my general 4 favorites. This one got me a new favorite author, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, or Cien Años de Soledad. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is a really famous Colombian author, and this is probably one of his most famous books. The other one that I think is probably the second most famous is Love in the Time of Cholera. This book blew my mind, and I noticed it actually has really split reviews. People are either really big fans of it or it's not really their thing. So the premise of the book is it basically tracks the Buendia family through kind of like the matriarch Ursula and then all of her sons, who are the sons of this man named Jose Arcadio Buendia. I think I'm getting that name right. There are a lot of names in this book, but it is a beautiful story through the ages of this family. I think it reflects like Latin American culture very well. It's something I resonate with, seeing how a lot of my family roots are in Mexico, and a lot of my family has these like family stories, these sagas. My family sagas remind me a lot of what the Buendia family, which is the main family in this story, kind of talk about. And there's a lot of magic realism sprinkled into this. So like it is a realistic story set in like a real place, but you'll be reading it and then suddenly someone will float off to the heavens, or there's like a ghost, or there's these little magical aspects sprinkled in with it, and it is just takes my breath away. Some of these stories, if you're into books that really have a strong sense of place with a lot of like descriptions that make you feel like you are there, I would highly recommend this one. Now I'm reading everything by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I read Love in the Time of Cholera after this one, which I was split between adding that one to this list, but I think this one beats out. But I think a lot of it is because of that connection, that reminder of my family in this book. So that's that one. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about that I absolutely loved was Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants. So I talked about this book before in my video about scientific integrity and traditional ecological knowledge, so check that video out. I will link to it above and in the description box below. But basically, this is a nonfiction book, and it reads a little bit like a memoir of Robin Wall Kimmerer. I think that's how you say her last name. And she is an Indigenous woman who's lived all over the United States, and she talks about so many important themes in nature, Indigenous wisdom, and science. So it's really coming from the perspective that she has as a botanist and combining the worlds of botany and science in the Western sense of the word with the traditional knowledge that she grew up with and she learned throughout her time in her life. So it talks about how Indigenous knowledge can be less respected in a scientific field because it doesn't come from these like rigorous experiments necessarily. But when she runs a lot of these experiments in her botany lab, it proves that a lot of Indigenous wisdom was right all along. It just needed someone to believe in those stories and bring them into the world of Western science. So she talks a lot about traditional plants, a lot about science in the field of science, her experience as an Indigenous botanist. And this is just a wonderful read if you are interested in plants or botany or ecology. I would really recommend this one. It was beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes so many times. So Braiding Sweetgrass is a really great newer one to pick up. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about was a book I read in 12 hours yesterday. It just captured my attention and was such a page turner, I guess, that I just could not put it down. This one I'm bringing out my Kobo. It's called Know My Name, a memoir by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller, if you guys don't already know, she's an artist, she is an activist, and she is an author, but a lot of you guys might know her by the unidentified Emily Doe in the Brock Turner trials. So this one is it's a really hard read, and I am giving a fair warning to people who are survivors. This might not be the one to pick up early in your healing, but she talks about her story as a victim on trial in the court system, but also all over the news. And the amount of press the Brock Turner case got was extraordinary. And really, this case was seen as one of the cases that really fueled the Me Too movement and many other calls for reform of the criminal justice system for survivors of sexual assault. So this one is not only such an important story to tell just by her experience and her reclaiming her identity as someone, a person beyond this Emily Doe, this anonymous figure who had no voice. She's giving herself voice and power behind her experience and showing people that she is a person. She isn't this nameless woman found behind the dumpster. So I'm getting like emotional thinking about it, but it was just such an extraordinary book. And so not only is the content so important, but it is written so well. Her metaphors that she uses just can take you into these places in your mind that you would never imagine you would be able to go with this book. So I highly recommend this to everyone, especially if you don't have any experience with the court system or how sexual assault victims find their way in the world and their healing journey. Because if you don't know a lot about it, I recommend this read so you know what people have to go through. So yeah, that's a 5-star one, easy. The last book I'm going to talk about is kind of an oldie. I tried picking this one up so many times and I never got through it, but I finally did. Must just be in the right place for it, but it's the Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. So the Poisonwood Bible is about a family in the 1950s, an American family that moves to the Congo to basically follow the father of the family in his year as a missionary. So this one is pretty crazy. It brings up a lot of issues with not only missionary projects, especially during this time, that are rooted in the seeds of racism and white saviorism, but it also brings up kind of the issues with volunteerism in general. And that's why I wanted to bring this one up, because I feel like volunteerism is a really common thing that we see in the ecology, environmental science field. A good example of volunteerism in this book is that the missionary father, he wants to go and show these villagers in the Congo how to start a proper vegetable garden, because he didn't see like American vegetables growing in the Congo. And so he tries to build this garden and he makes it exactly the same way he makes it in the United States. And everything washes out during the floods. And the housekeeper says, please, you need to make your garden this way. Otherwise, everything's going to wash away. You have to shape the mounds in a certain way. And he says, no, she has no idea what she's talking about. I'm doing it my way. This is the Western way. This is the right way. And everything is pretty much destroyed and he loses all his seeds. Then the housekeeper's just kind of laughing because he has no idea what he's talking about. He's never been to the Congo. He doesn't know what people eat there. He doesn't know anything, but he's trying to push his ideas that might have worked in America to this new country. So there's way more to it than that, and there's also some really, really dark elements, and it's told from the perspective of every single one of the family members. It switches back and forth between the kids and the mother. This one is a really interesting read that I would also recommend this year. Guys, those are all my recommendations I have. Let me know if you have any more recommendations of books that I should read or review in the comment section down below. Let me know if you like book videos and you want to see more. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you next time.